But this piece I titled "The Secret Relationship Between Mossad and CIA." CIA was founded in 1947 in the aftermath of World War II. It grew out of something called the OSS, Office of Strategic Services, which is interesting. Its logo was a man in a cloak and dagger with a dagger covering his face and a knife in his cloak and dagger. So that's your CIA, 1947. Harry Truman signed that into law. It really didn't get its teeth until the 8 years of Eisenhower. Eisenhower made it a global, invisible superpower. But 2 years after its founding, and 1 year after the establishment of the State of Israel, headquarters of the New World Order, the Mossad was set up, and its motto is, "By way of deception, thou shalt do war." And, from the very beginning, there was a heavy overlap. I mean, the OSS had a lot of Jewish operatives, and they carried over and they became, CIA was kind of Jewish elite and Anglo elite together. But so there was always that sympathy among elements of the two agencies. And with the passage of time, the CIA became subservient to the Mossad. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, next page here. Okay. William Casey was a CIA director from 1981 to 1987 under Reagan. And he had his hand in that Iran-Contra business with the neocons and so on. Very shady character. He is reputed to have said, or maybe it's an actual quote. I haven't verified it yet, but it might be an actual quote. I don't know if you ever heard it. We will know our mission is complete when everything is false on the media, something like that.
I've heard that. As far as I know. It is. But I've definitely heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's his deal. And he was big on Mockingbird. And the other gentleman you see there's a book about him. His nickname, The Ghost: The Secret Life of CIA Spy Master James Jesus Angleton. Angleton, he was a CIA chief of counterintelligence.
Mike, one sec. I did just pull it. Even
okay.
on the NAACP website, which is obviously no friend to truth. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William J. Casey, CIA Director, 1981.
Yeah. So they
did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job.
He sure did.
Yeah.
And this guy was cut out of the same cloth, James Jesus Angleton. And he's recognized as the dominant counterintelligence figure in the non-communist world. So he was like a level below, but he was huge. But, nobody's heard his name. But these guys were big. And the reason I feature these two is because we learned something about them from an article that I republished here on the next page of this exhibit that appeared in the 1987 Wall Street Journal. These guys both died, it's interesting, in May of 1987. Casey and Angleton. Angleton's death was really suspicious because he went on a canoe trip by himself and drowned. He was in his 70s, but it was kind of weird. So I don't know. Both these guys had been retired. I don't know if there's some kind of interagency play, white hats versus black hats. Because there's even in the CIA, there's good guys. Or maybe
sounds like we need to dig them up too, Mike.
I dig him up, yeah. But I think they say he drowned. Casey was a bit older, but who knows? But the point is, both of these characters were very pro-Israel, and I dug this up. We learned from Wolf Blitzer. This is a 1987 article. And Blitzer was a nobody. Wolf Blitzer was a press secretary for AIPAC. This guy's total Mossad. Our friend Wolfie here.
Mm-hmm.
And so But he wrote this in 1987. That's the headline, Wall Street Journal. Mossad CIA ties are the legacy of Casey and Angleton. Israeli intelligence officials are mourning the deaths in recent weeks of CIA Director William Casey. He was in office when he died. And James Jesus Angleton, the legendary chief of counterintelligence at the CIA. Both men were great friends to Israel. So this is tippy top CIA. And this is Mossad agent telling you that they were besties with Israel. Mr. Angleton, who died of cancer May 11th at age 69, almost single-handedly ran the Israeli account at the CIA until 1974, when he was forced out by new CIA director William Colby. So isn't that interesting? So he was there when JFK got knocked off, James Jesus Angleton. Okay, but he was forced out by the new CIA director Colby. Who appointed Colby? Richard Nixon. I'm not saying that William Colby's necessarily a white hat, because he's still a spook. All these guys are shady as F, right? But he wasn't part of that clique. And Nixon put him in there. They had Watergate. Gerald Ford comes in. Who gets fired? William Colby. Who does Gerald Ford make director of CIA? George Bush, H.W. Bush. Isn't that special? How they operate.
There's the chess match right there, back and forth.
Okay, so this does exist even within the CIA. So it's not as clear cut as, okay, CIA bad. It's a horrible agency. There's white hats in it. Okay, you know who Steve Pachenik is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. Remember when Trump gave the speech at the CIA, his very first day in office? And there's CIA agents there are cheering him. And he says, we got to tear down the columns in this place. He's referring to fifth columns. So there's that white hat, black hat within the CIA. Okay. Yep. So that's very, very interesting. Wolf Blitzer is telling us that Colby, who was Nixon's boy, shit-canned James Jesus Angleton, who was Israel's boy. During his many years on the job, Mr. Angleton was instrumental in dramatically strengthening U.S.-Israeli intelligence cooperation in a host of areas. His legacy continues despite a very serious setback suffered during the Jonathan J. Pollard spy scandal. Pollard was caught passing secrets. Mr. Angleton's counterparts at the Mossad, Israel's external intelligence service, were deeply disappointed when Mr. Angleton retired and suspected that Mr. Angleton's extraordinary close connection to the Mossad was one reason Mr. Colby wanted him out. See that? So this white hat, black hat stuff was going on before Q came on the scene. And that's what I mean. If you know history, you understand the present better. This is why as soon as I started reading Q posts, and I'm very discerning, not a gullible, easily influenced person, I saw right away that this is an extension of this kind of inner battle that's been raging for decades. There are good people. Black pillars don't want to admit this, but there are good people in our government, even in our intel agencies.
And Q also tells you, to remind you a number, I think at least a few times, at least once, that there are more good people than bad.
That's right. That's right. They just needed to be freed.
That's right.
Come to the fore. Okay. But even after retiring, Mr. Angleton retained his personal ties to some of Israel's best intelligence agents. They often visited his home and they dined at Chinese restaurants. Okay. So a guy of that stature in the CIA is this intimate with the Mossad. Not good. And it continues on the next panel. Thank you, Wolfie.
Exactly.
Like Mr. Angleton, Mr. Casey was a frequent, though secret, visitor to Israel. This is gold, man. Secret. Why would he be a secret? Because he wants to keep on the down low. Mr. Casey in the 80s and Mr. Angleton in the 50s, 60s, and 70s would often travel there to meet the head of the Mossad, to exchange information, and to plan covert operations. JFK, RFK. There was an incredible degree of mutual trust built on a unique personal relationships established and proven over time. Oh, Wolfie loves these guys. He's gushing over them. He's in essence telling you they're Mossad.
Yep.
Mr. Angleton, in fact, had a very dramatic impact on his counterparts in Israel in persuading them to take the necessary precautions to make certain the Soviet Union cannot penetrate Israeli intel. Always suspicious of Soviet operations, credited first to recognize the campaign to subvert Israel. Israel learned much from him. Mr. Casey, for his part, was seen as the most pro-Israeli director of the CIA ever. He made previously restricted information, including satellite photography, routinely available to Israel. Thank you, Wolf Blitzer. He's told us these guys were both frickin' pro-Mossad traitors, and that people within the intelligence community, like William Colby, knew it. And it almost makes you wonder if both of these guys got knocked off by the good guys in the agency, spy on spy. They just went right after the other, 4 days apart.
That would be my guess, and obviously we can't prove it. But you know, one thing we know about these people, they don't leave loose ends.
Yeah,
and when you got guys like that were at the top of the pyramid, they're in their 70s. Like, man, get them out of the way. Get them out of the way.
And these are guys who have the power to recruit and hire and promote many other agents. So you can infest the whole agency.
Mm-hmm.
Were they on a payroll of Mossad, or were they Epstein? In one way or another, Mossad, to the extent that they control Casey and Angleton, were controlling the CIA.
So well, it would sound like they were controlled, because if they were part of that class, then you probably wouldn't need to knock them off, because you wouldn't have to worry about them talking. But if they were controlled, maybe against their will or blackmailed or whatever, those are the kind of guys you got to worry about the second they get out. They're going to talk.
Yeah,
but who knows? Who knows? 4 days apart sounds like a heck of a coincidence to me.
Yeah. So very, very informative piece by Wolf Blitzer, himself a Mossad agent. And again, we already covered this post. Mossad at the top, giving the talking points to the media and the U.S. politicians. Okay. So Mossad supersedes CIA, and we just saw how they did it, because those guys were there for a long time, especially Angleton.
And this is why Donald Trump has, from day one, called the fake news the enemy of the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I named my platform News Treason. That's why we spend so much time. That's why Fox News has, for the last 3 years, spends every segment showing you what's going on and then how the fake news is spinning it. Because at the end of the day, the fake news is the protection for the Mossad, the CIA, the Five Eyes, all the dark stuff they're doing, the human trafficking, the weapons trafficking, the drug trafficking, all of it. So if you can't get rid of the fake news, we could do everything we want to fix our food system and the children and everything else. If that system of control isn't completely ripped down, and the people don't completely understand what was done and how it was done, then we failed. And that's why this is such an important concept to understand, especially in light of everything that's happening right now. And it makes you think, Mike. We've always been trying to wonder what the snake poem that Trump talks about.
Yeah, I think that has a new meaning now for sure.
It does. It ends with "You knew I was a snake the day you took me in." I'm probably paraphrasing. Well, think about that. We have been told. I've been told my entire life, Israel is our closest ally.
Yeah.
And as far as the people, sure. As far as the government, Never made any sense to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really didn't. It didn't make
Yeah.
any sense that government with Canada and so many, no, that's our closest ally. It
Yeah.
never made sense. But think about the snake. Your closest ally is the one
Yeah.
controlling
Sure.
all the things, all the information flow and all the bad things that take place in your
Yeah.
country. It's being run through their deep state intelligence apparatus.
And there is Crash Course 9/11 Inside Job again. This makes it very clear that this was a Mossad operation. And part of the reason people have a difficulty maybe understanding that, how they can pull it off, is because they don't understand the penetration of the CIA. Because if you say, oh, CIA took out JFK, CIA did 9/11, to somebody who's got a conspiratorial bent, that makes sense. When you go to Mossad, it kind of doesn't make sense until you realize things like this Wolf Blitzer article and many other stories too. I also sent you another image earlier. Here it is. And this kind of could be applied to both stories, but it speaks again to Israel being the international headquarters. Okay, there's Lord Balfour, and the story is, real quick, World War I was essentially broken down into a stalemate. However, Germany was in control of the situation, and they were offering generous peace terms to Britain and France, which are essentially, let's just stop the war and go home, go back to the way things was. We don't want anything from anybody. And it was at this juncture that gentleman on the bottom right postage stamp, Chaim Weissman, one of the original Zionists, made his move. And he was actually coached by the Rothschilds on how to approach the British aristocracy, intelligentsia, political leadership, polish them up a little bit, and make his pitch. Lord Rothschild himself, like you said earlier, this is not something I have to bring receipts for and prove, because it's admitted. They're proud of it. The Rothschilds were behind the foundation of Israel, and they go there, they get awards and everything. But that's the deal. Was we can get Woodrow Wilson in the United States into the war on your side. The deal is you're going to have to divert your troops southward to Turkey. Turkey was allied with Germany, and take Palestine, and we want a national homeland there. And to that end, now Wilson declared war. The deal was made in late 2016, actually, verbally. Several months later, after his reelection, Wilson declared war. That would be April 2017. And here's this letter, November 2017.
You mean 1917?
1917.
Yeah.
But here's this letter dated November. This is the Balfour Declaration. So what happened all these 9 months? What was the holdup? Where's the Americans? They're like, where's the Americans? The holdup was they needed to make this deal, and they wanted something in writing first. And Lord Balfour addressed this to who? Lord Rothschild, Walter Rothschild. And et cetera, et cetera. We view favorably the establishment of a Jewish homeland. It doesn't say we give you this and you bring America to the war, of course. It's just, but why is he doing this in the middle of the war? But that was the in writing that they were waiting for. Issue to the Rothschild. You don't make a promise to the Rothschild that you don't intend to keep. And America got into the war. The British went south. They busted up the Ottoman Turkish Empire. They took over Palestine. They held jurisdiction over that for 25 years or so. And they allowed the Jewish immigration there. That's how it started. And those are 2 Israeli postage stamps, which to this day, they call it Balfour Day. They celebrate it. There's Weissman and there's Lord Balfour. But this was a Rothschild operation, 100%. They admit it.
I'm smiling because I've had people push back on the Balfour Declaration, even though you can look it up. And then I didn't realize they even had stamps about it. And yet people will still try to argue and say that that's a conspiracy theory.
No, they have Balfour Day. That's like establishment history. Everything I just said in this segment, like I said, I don't even, usually when you say Rothschild's this, Rothschild's that, people's defense shields go up, and you have to really bring an inordinate amount of receipts just to penetrate their thick skull and get them to think. With this, no, this is open. There's video on YouTube. Jacob Rothschild's telling the same story about how he arranged for, Weissman was a little rough around the edges. Okay. So the Rothschilds kind of coached him how to talk to these British muckety mucks. He's bragging about it. So no, that's Balfour Declaration. That's